Before we get started, I do just want to introduce myself. I'm Eden. I'm the Associate Director of Community here at PMD Alliance, and I have my two trusty sidekicks with me. I have Kelly Merkel, who will be doing the tech, and she is our in-person program manager. And I have Calissa Pelches, who is our, she's our online program manager. Calissa is our in-person program manager, and it's a Monday, so please forgive me. But I don't know how I would deal without either of them, and I am so grateful for them. So we could add that to my Thanksgiving list of things to be grateful for. I'm happy everyone's here today. We can get started with the slides. Okay, so of course, obviously, welcome to everybody. We can move on to the next slide. We're just going to go over some Zoom etiquette. Mute your mic when necessary. When we do break out into the small groups, you won't have to do anything. Kelly will take care of all of that for you, and you will unmute your mic. Hi from Wilmington. Want you to listen deeply because we want to always be respectful of everybody and know what they're saying is important. If you were in the All In Summit, then yes and is really something you're aware of right now. We don't ever say yes, but we say yes and. We embrace what other people have to say and we run with it. Move with intention. Think about what you're doing, where you want to go when you put this conversation, where you want to take it. And of course, as always, please be patient with technology. It's wonderful when it works, but when it doesn't, it's a problem. So we always ask that you be patient. Okay. There we go. And today's chat storm, we are coming into the most wonderful time of the year, but it's also one of the most stressful times of the year. So I'm wondering if you want to put in the chat, what are you doing to combat the holiday stress? What are you doing? Oh, it's raining in Southern California. I'm sorry, but I think you guys need the rain, so that's not a bad thing. So what are some things you guys are doing to combat holiday stress? Personally, we're staying home. We're not going to travel this year because that just makes it a little bit harder. What are some things that other people are doing? Ooh, baking. That's that's also a fun way to relax. And of course, chocolate makes everything better. Anybody who knows me knows that I say you can't spell salad without sad. Perry is hiding. Uh-oh, that's good, but it's smart. Online shopping instead of in person. That is really smart because really, if you can't find it on Amazon, you don't need it in the first place. Oh, Shabir, you're going to India for a wedding. That's going to be so exciting, but I see stress because that's going to be a lot of international travel. Making a plan for what gifts to get family and sticking to the list. That's a good way of making sure you don't go over your budget, wind up spending more than you want to, because that's not good. That becomes a stressor when you're spending too much money, but also really kind of thinking about what to get for people, because that's always nice. And so, anybody else want to share something? Oh, accepting. Oh, going to grandma's dining hall. That's nice. Going to a restaurant, that makes it easier. I have a friend, they're bringing in food so that she's not going to be cooking all day. Judy says Perry can't hide from her, but accepting without expectation for things to be different, because they are in our new normal right now. Not cooking at Thanksgiving. Invited the family to join us at our clubhouse. That's wonderful because this way you still get to see the family without all the stress and the cleanup of doing it in your own home. That's good thinking. Anyone else have something they want to share? Or I hope people are maybe thinking, you know, hey, I could do this. Enjoy what it is, not seeking perfection. That's a big deal. People have in their head what like this incredible, you know, what it's supposed to be, and then things are going to go wrong. Kind of like a wedding, you know, you have in your head that it's supposed to be this incredible, perfect day, and things are going to go wrong, and that's okay. Perfect. Wow. I'm glad everybody shared. Thanks, guys. Thanks for sharing. I'm going to go to the next slide. And so we're going to talk about, just to give you a little agenda for today, we are going to talk briefly about holiday stress, what to recognize, what can we do about this, especially because I assume you'll take some of this back to your support group. You do want to be aware of this. And then we do have our small group discussion that will come back and then share our main insights. As I said, Kelly, because she's awesome, is going to just put you in the breakout rooms. You're not going to have to do anything. And then she'll let you know when it's time to come back. So, perfect. So stress in the holidays, good and bad stress. Our bodies don't differentiate between them. It's interesting. The nurse practitioner I used to work with would joke that she had more complaints about tremor the year the Bucks went to the Super Bowl. So obviously we're dating ourselves because this was, we met the first time, which was back in like 2002, because before Tom Brady came, it had been a while. But the truth of the matter is our body doesn't differentiate. So, you know, you might notice that, yeah, during that intense football game, or you're excited because you're going to see your family, but then the tremors may be worse, or as a support group leader, you know, you feel more people are calling you during the holidays. They need more things. Like I said, our body doesn't know the difference. So whether you're excited about seeing your family or you're arguing with your family, your body reacts the same way. And so that really does put a problem sometimes, put a damper on the holiday excitement. 38% of people do report stress during the holidays. And yep, it's the same exact physiology, whether it's good stress or bad stress, your body doesn't know the difference. Whether you're, yeah, you're furious, it doesn't really know the difference. So what can we do about this? Next slide. So what are your signs of dealing stress? These are pretty all over the place because everybody does experience it different. Your heart may begin to race. Your eating habits might change, which of course with the holidays, we do tend to eat more. But if you're feeling overwhelmed or constantly tired, I personally tend to feel nervous when I'm feeling anxiety. So it can really be all over the place how you experience stress. If you're feeling tired, usually you might notice that you're a little bit more irritated or angry. And of course, you want to watch for this in other people. Losing interest in activities you used to enjoy. Maybe you're not as excited to see the family this time. And that's kind of your clue that, you know, as happy as I am, because it's the holidays, you know, this does mess up my, okay, bye, Larry. This does mess up my schedule, and that creates some stress for me. You know, so let's talk about what are those sources of stress? Is it maybe your sleep schedule? Shabir mentioned he's going to go to India. That's going to mess up his schedule because that's a whole other time zone and everything. Are you concerned about disagreements with family? Do you take on too many responsibilities at the holidays? You know, if you're hosting the whole family, but you're not going to a clubhouse, if you're cooking for the whole family, opening your home to a lot of people. Again, it's exciting because you want to see your family, but when all these people are suddenly under your roof, that can be a lot. Okay. So I'm going to talk about just things we can do to eliminate stress. Take it slow. Deep breathing is always good. You know, if you ever want to talk to Calissa about meditation, she would be happy to tell you about it. Please accept help from others. You should be doing this all the time anyway, but especially at the holidays. Like, I'm so happy that some of you are saying, hey, somebody else is going to cook the dinner. You know, that's a lot. And people do have those expectations of this perfect banquet. Nobody really wants to think about the Christmas Story where she ruins the bird and then they wind up in a Chinese restaurant, because that can happen. Schedule holiday gatherings for dates. What's best for the person with Parkinson's? Trying to keep, just like when the kids were little and you were kind of trying to stick to a napping schedule, it's a little bit like this. What are good times? What are bad times? And let's try to avoid the bad times. Letting people know, hey, we don't do anything too early, or 3 o'clock. You can say yes, but you do need to know your limitations. Yes, we can come and we're going to be there for a while, but at this time we do need to leave. So try and keep as few changes in the routine as possible. Yeah. Kind of be aware that some others are not in that same spirit as you. And that's also creating stress for them because they want to put on that happy face, but this is a hard time of the year for them. Ensure you're well supplied to avoid last minute running around. Keep gathering small and short. So yes, but we're going to go on to the next one too. And if you're traveling, make sure you have a plan to keep things good. Yeah, that is really hard. First time without the mates or the spouse. Depression is more prevalent during this time. I know from when I used to work at the crisis center, Valentine's Day is the highest rate of teenage depression around that time, but the Christmas is for adult depression. It is not always as cheerful and merry as it's supposed to be. And I do want people to kind of be aware of that. And I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer, but I do like for things to be realistic. And, I want everybody to just kind of practice self-care and take care of themselves, ask for help, but also realize that, maybe you're not in that Christmas spirit because it is hard and you want to be with your family, but you also know you're missing somebody important to you. Okay. And one thing we did talk about, and I am going to send to people, we came up with our leaves of gratitude. So when we send a thank you note at the end of this, we will also send it to you if you'd like to share it with your support group. One of the things they talked about it all in that I really liked was it's kind of an improv thing, but it was like, what about your life isn't bad? And you kept getting asked this question. So you were kind of really forced to answer it multiple times. And so it was like, I was personally asked, like, what about your life isn't bad? And the first thing I said is, I have a really cute dog. What about your life isn't bad? And it was like, well, sometimes my daughter cannot be so kind, but for overall, I'd say my family's pretty cool. What about your life isn't bad? And you just have to keep going through it. And so I do want you to think about, what are you grateful for? What about your life isn't bad? And we do kind of want you to maybe take that back to your support group and kind of, 'tis the season for, Thanksgiving. So what are we grateful for? Okay. Yeah. In a way, that relationship with Parkinson's, it's not what you think about, but it has created another family for you. And it, I too love that exercise because it really did kind of force you to just really focus on what was kind of more positive. And again, I'm not talking toxic positivity, but just what are good things in your life? And even if it's just, crumble cookie opened up near me, that's the kind of thing I like to hear. That makes me happy. And so thinking about things that maybe to make your life a little bit easier, our discussion we wanted to talk about is, what do you wish you knew before you started a support group? What have been some of your, I liked it too. What is not wrong in your life? What have been your struggles and what resources have helped you as a support group leader? What has what do you wish you knew that could have made things easier? And what have been your struggles? And so that's kind of what I want you to think about. I'm going to put that in the chat. We're going to have, a few people in each room, about maybe 6 or so people in each room. We're going to talk about how to, designate a note keeper, because we will come back and we are going to ask these questions. and kind of just go through and say, what did you find out? What was, helpful to you? And then we will come back. I'm going to, as I said, put this in the chat so everybody has it. And we're going to break off. And then we'll come back in about 45 minutes for some share backs.
All righty, everybody. I will stop sharing and then we will send you into your breakout room. So get ready to blast off into the internet. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Hi. Good to see everyone. So now's kind of where we'd love to hear from you guys, what you took away. If you want to come off mute, room 1, we have Kathy and Kay and Kelly and Peg, Perry, Roberta, Roger. If anybody'd like to come off mute and share what you discussed. Oh, I know you guys aren't quiet. Come on. Who's going to share?
Was that us?
Yep.
I think that was us. I'll just
Yep.
chime in, and anybody in the group, feel free to chime in. But a few of the things that we talked about that we wish we had known prior to starting our support groups is how to have some tools in our kit to help with negativity in the conversations and how to steer that away and how to kind of nip that in the bud and keep the meetings moving forward. And so, we talked about having some things that you could say, the rules, like we have rules before this meeting to maybe include a few of those about adding a time limit on how long a response is so the negativity can't go on for too long, or, things you could say without being rude to let that person know that they're kind of getting off the rails a little bit. And then Roger had a really good suggestion, is leaving the support group meeting open for half an hour after it's done and let people know if you want this kind of more of a rant and long form discussion time frame, that's the period for it instead of in the actual meeting. So I thought that was an excellent idea. The other thing that was challenging is I brought up, I wish I had better tools to learn how to grow the support group, especially after COVID. It's been really hard to get people back in. And now we're even doing a hybrid mode, but it's still disjointed and people are still not feeling that connection that they did before. And Kelly, who has an amazing group of hundreds of people in the support group, which is unbelievable. Hers is just geared towards women who are married to men who have Parkinson's. So that kind of taught me that instead of always going, it's nice to have a group that includes everybody, but maybe in my trying to include everybody, I'm getting nobody instead. And it might be better to also have smaller groups of people that are just for specific needs, and that might make them more comfortable and make the meeting a little more intimate. So whether it's just caregivers or women or, whatever, people with purple hair, I don't know, but different smaller groups. So those were the things that we talked about. Anybody else in our group want to chime in? It was a good discussion. It was really interesting to hear how people have their groups.
Kathy, I think you're trying to talk, but you're on mute right now.
Am
Kathy
I
Goldberg.
muted?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. The one thing that I took away leads off from that last share is I didn't realize that there were different meetings to go to. I do all the support ones online that I can do, like this one, but and I do some in-person ones where the patient and I go together. But I would like some that I would be able to go to just as a care person. And I'm learning that there are some of those too. So I think that will be helpful for me. I just want to say that every time I'm on one of these, I learn something new. So I think they're very, very worthwhile. Thank you so much for having them.
I just had one small. There's a difference between palliative care and respite care. and some of our team is going through. We will all face it, so we should all learn from it and be better prepared. That could be some new topics, the difference between palliative and respite.
Yeah. Yeah, respite is when you kind of just need a break, and palliative is really more long-term thinking. So, you know, I think that people think of palliative with hospice, and that's not what it is or has to be. And so I think it scares people when, you know, if we have like kind of a frank discussion about it, it's really just something that it's about just making decisions, especially
Yes,
while we're able.
we will all face it sooner or later.
Mhm. Exactly. Okay. Anybody else from room 1 want to share anything? We appreciate what you shared. What about room 2? We've got Dave, we've got Jan, we've got Judy, we've got Lauren, Myra, Rich, and Shabir.
One comment I saw is that there was nobody who started a group. Everybody kind of joined at the sometime, or maybe not even leading. So majority of the talk was how do we increase membership, number one. And so we talked about that. And then the second was basically just how do you, two things. How do you overcome the barrier if somebody has trouble speaking without really shutting him down, so to speak? The ideas are great. That was other comments we had. And one was how do you motivate people with, has depression stuff. And, I had a problem yesterday when I visited. So that's the other thing. How do you bring these people out? They can't come to the meeting, or maybe they come in a meeting and they sound very negative or something. So that's the other issue. So those are the three general ideas we talked about. And as far as bringing more members, I mean, I don't think there was anything new that we have not talked about here. Last time we talked about the increase in membership and stuff. I don't know if anybody wants to add. Do you remember? I can't remember everything. We talked about a documentary that's Rich suggested called John Collins, and say it's just Parkinson, and there's a documentary about that. I don't know if anybody knows or seen it or what. So that was the other thing that we may want to watch as far as motivation and concern. So
I'll pick up on that.
okay.
Yeah, this is a documentary that has it's in the process of being released.
Oh, it's not released. Okay.
What has happened is John Cullen, the last name is spelled Cullen. He is a Parkinson's patient, and they have put this together, and his care partner is part of it too, and he has an incredible volunteer that also works with him. The documentary is called "It's Just Parkinson," and again, his name is John Cullen, Cullen. It's being played here in Wisconsin, and John has actually been present at the showings of it. It's available on a link right now, and I have that link. It's only available through November 21st, and then eventually it's going to be released, I assume, to the general public, or available in theaters. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but it is incredibly inspirational. John used to be a very athletic person. He did, for example, bike rides in the Pyrenees, and what is that one in France? He's done the Tour de France. He's done things like that. He's run marathons. He's of course not doing those kinds of things anymore, but he has taken up powerlifting, and it's incredible what he has done. Anyway, it is incredibly inspirational. Again, I can make it. Is there somebody that is kind of over this whole thing?
What do you mean over
I
it?
think Kelly is who you're.
Organizing it. Anyway,
The link is in the chat if that's what you're wondering, Rich. Eden did share the link.
yeah, we had a little bit of a discussion on that. I tell you what, I will give you my email address. And if you want to write it down, and if you want, just reach out to me. Just be sure you tell me who you are and that you were part of this group, because otherwise I don't open things. I need to know that, you know, they're legit. So here's my email address. If you want to know, I'll send it to you. It is in capital letters because one of the letters is often confused. So it is RLPSOHN@gmail.com. Again, RLPSOHN@gmail.com. And just indicated that it's about, or the documentary is, It's Just Parkinson's, John Cullen. Then I'll know you're legit. The other thing we didn't talk about, and pardon me for going on, but I'm going to, something that was just said a few minutes ago, I'm going to pick up on it. We were visiting in the Orlando, Florida area a couple of years ago during or just before COVID. And we attended a support group down there. And something I found very interesting was that they ran a program where they had care partners meeting in one room, and at the same time they had an activity. I believe it was a dance group at that time, but they did other things at other times. But they were doing, activities in the other room with the patients. So you had them happening at exactly the same time, but in separate settings. That is separate rooms. That was really helpful. And we're talking about doing that here in one of our support groups too, trying to organize it that way.
Yeah, we actually have that here in Surprise, Arizona. It's an organization called Benavia. And one of the things they offer is basically adult daycare, so that they can keep your person active while you're in a meeting. So it's a similar thing.
Wonderful. Well, thanks group 2 for sharing. And then what about group 3? We have Barb, Clemmy, Elizabeth, and Virginia. Who wants to come off mute? Barb, it looks like you're talking. There you go.
I was trying. So we talked a lot about resources and where you can have meetings, like someone mentioned using parks and recreation centers, and hospitals. People have found are really actually willing to have you come in and have a support group, and they are actually helpful in providing speakers and almost anything that you need. Retirement communities and retirement homes was mentioned, but it was said that sometimes that's not the best, because when you have younger people, they are very reluctant to go into the retirement home. But it is good because they will often provide food and drinks and almost anything you need for your group. We talked about using Facebook, and using WhatsApp is a good way to have the conversations keep going within the group. The leader can send out information about the group or whatever is happening, and it allows those conversations to take place online. What else did we talk about? Somebody help me.
Sure. We also talk about things that we can do to, for example, I suggested like sometime when you give literature like papers and books to the participant, most of the time they take it with them and they don't really never looked at it. So maybe suggested to read a little bit what those papers are about, so they can take a little interest on what's in there. We also talk about how to email, like constant contact. Some person, they mentioned about that it's easier to send a bunch of emails, and I guess it's a cost of $20 a month, but it's easier to send emails through that contact. What else did we talk about? Help me out, Clemmy. What else did we said? That's what I have in my head.
Just different things to do at the support groups to keep people interested in coming back. Games were mentioned. Of course, exercise is always good. It's not just someplace that people have to go and talk. There's other things that can be done too. And Lisbeth had mentioned reading part of literature, actually reading it to them and using that. We all thought that was interesting to do, because we know, a lot of times we think that if we give someone a piece of literature, they're going to take it home and read it, but that doesn't happen. So if you can pick out something within that literature that's interesting, that might get them interested in actually taking it home and looking at it, sometimes is better than just handing someone something and saying, here, read this.
And we also talk about be able to show on, if it's possible, and the groups, if they have a projector, so they can actually go through the website and tell them where to go and what to do. That's also very helpful, because that way they kind of know what to do. That's the other thing that we talk about, and I thought it was very interesting, because that's what I think is very helpful to do. So I give you a vision of, if you have the capacity to do it, because you have to have the technology, but that would be a good idea too.
And that was mentioned that, yes, you can go online and find the videos and things, but how many people do that? They just don't. I know I am guilty of that. I just don't watch things that I know would be helpful. So that's another good thing to do.
Motivation, yes.
Is it because you forget about it, or because you just don't think about it?
I just don't think about doing it. Unless I am given something that I know is interesting to me and I do it right then, I just never get to it.
Yeah, the motivation, I think.
If it was shown to me somewhere, then I wouldn't have to go looking for it and try to remember to do it.
Well, you get a visual of what you can do, and it's sometimes when you hear it, you see it, and it's easier. The third step is to go and do it, actually.
Yeah. So when you make it easy for people, they follow through.
Or even, yeah. I don't think we mentioned this, but I think it would be helpful, like in a support group setting, if people just get out their phones and you go through it with them how to get to a certain place or something like that, so that they don't have to sit there and think, okay, I have to do this and I have to go here, and what's the address of where I'm going, and all those types of things. So that might be helpful too.
Okay. One thing I do want to just return to, because a few people talked about this, the negativity. Do you feel, and you guys can come off mute and answer me, do you feel as if that's an issue in the whole support group, or do you feel one person kind of brings everyone down, and it's almost like controlling that one person versus the support group becomes negative?
I think for me, it's both. It's yes, and it's, it can start with, most people know kind of, some person or persons who tend to be more negative and can kind of, it's not so much that for me, the negativity, it's because you want to let people be negative because sometimes it's just the way it needs to be, but from taking too much time. So, it's a skill to cut somebody off from a negative rant and turn it back positive for the rest of the group. And people are good at that. I notice you guys are great when we have our meetings and doing that. So just learning those little tips and techniques to turn things around so it doesn't turn the whole group negative is very helpful.
Excuse me for jumping in here. This is Rich again. I just did put into the chat the link to the Just It's Parkinson's documentary. It's in there at this point. So if you want to look for it, you can get it out there, okay? Then I won't need to email or text anybody. It's right there in chat.
I will include this in the follow-up email that I'm going to send out. But then also, if you see on the bottom of the chat, it says like to everyone to send a message, and there's like a piece of paper and there's a smiley emoji. There's 3 little dots. And if you click on those 3 little dots and move up, you can save your chat. So I will send it in an email, but if you also just want to save your chat right now, you'll have that information. Does anybody have any final thoughts or anything before we say goodbye until December? Yes, Roger?
As far as negativity, what works good for our group is to recognize and acknowledge you have a reason to be negative, but we can continue this privately after the meeting. And after a couple times, the rest of the group thinks that's a good way to go. I don't always have to be the one, the whole team. You get to hear more discussion privately than publicly.
Let people. Although I don't think anybody can feel negative when you're around, Roger. Go on, Judy.
I just wanted to let everybody know People Magazine is out this month with an article by Michael J. Fox, and his face is on the cover, so you can't miss it at the store. And it's amazing how many bones he's broken. That's all I'm going to say. Interesting article.
I did read his goal is not to fall.
That's his new goal, is to do whatever it takes to never fall again, because he's broken, I don't know how many bones, just one after the other. So good read. He's always a good read.
It's been a rough year for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm actually want to make a comment. It feels so nice to see people, recognize people that we met at the PMD Alliance. Had Lauren. I didn't even notice. I'm glad you sent me a message. And Stuber, he was very active on the whole, so everybody knows that. And also Roger, I'm sorry, I can't even read. Need my glasses. Roger and his Shabir, he was very active. And I'm glad that I got to meet you guys, and now I can see you in the meeting and recognize you. So that was awesome.
It's interesting. It's opposite now. Now we had in Zoom and we met for in person, and now you're saying we met in person and now you're meeting in Zoom. And okay, either way.
Yep, it's very great.
And one
Good
last thought that I wanted to share with everyone from our breakout session was the power of partnering with other organizations. Amy had to step away, she had to take a call, but something important that she shared was that from all the speakers that she invites, she keeps the email and includes them to her email list. So her email list is quite large, but that is a way to keep people informed of what is going on in the community and raise more awareness. So I thought that was really smart too. And, you know, by partnering with a physical therapist and then keeping them informed of what your support group is doing, it's quite helpful. So remember that, partner with as many people as you can.
And of course, always ask for help, which is important too with the partnering. We're going to say thanks to everybody. We hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. We also hope you think about what about my life isn't bad, because that's important. And I wish everybody a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you next month. Well, some of you I
Bye,
see soon,
everybody.
but
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.